The Truth, Part 5 ending, all other parts down below. Got my keys to my new house. Happy dude. After months of waiting, hoping, discouragement, then a flicker of hope. I am finally the owner of a house. Well, I still have a mortgage, so I guess the bank owns it, but it is cheaper in monthly payment than most apartments in the area. I went to it last night, but stopped at Wally World to get some new deadbolts and door locks. The power was off, so I only had a few hours of daylight left to do some things. It was a good feeling, being in my own house, walking around it, and seeing kids playing outside that were my daughter's age, seeing the couple walking their baby down the street in a stroller. It felt homey. After returning home, the ex-wife as usual was on her iPhone. What is it with those things? She has completely phased out every tangible thing in her life outside of that phone, stares into it incessantly for hours on end, negating the presence of everyone including our daughter around her. I'd like to take it and say, here I am going to do you a favor and smash it to bits. I pick up on little things, like her constant fake smile into it as if life for her is so lovely and filled with pleasantries. Just like last weekend when I came inside the house from outside and she was bawling on the couch. Things like that make me feel sorry for her, but then a day later it's back to see how strong I am. I am laughing and smiling almost psychotically. I don't think psychotically is a word. Well, if she's happy, I am glad. If it's fake, I am glad too. I will by the skin of my teeth get every box, tool, scrap of clothing that's mine, out of that house as soon as I can. One of the most redeeming things I can't help but to acknowledge is the recovery of the very control of my own life. My own choices. My own decisions, none of them based upon her or her wishes or some misguided sense of obligation to her despite what she is. To regain that sense of control over my life far outweighs the fears of loneliness, or the concerns of being able to take care of all the bills or issues. It's me, and I can finally ultimately focus on myself for once without feeling selfish. I hope sometime that someone who is going through what I went through can read this post and see it from the perspective I have. At times when I had no idea if I was going to be okay, and had lots of worries from left to right, that the recalling of my own self, the recovery of control of my own life and liberties not based upon the concern for another as marriage would have had it, is so worth it. It far outshines the little worries and concerns of being single again and managing one's own business of living. This has given me a new power. It's like a switch that I can focus on and turn off the effect she used to have on me and my thoughts and heart. It turns off. It somehow just does. And now I find myself yearning to get moved into that house as soon as possible. And my first shopping trip consisted of a coffee maker and coffee, thinking they still supplied freebie filters with the coffee maker, which they do not anymore. A shower rod and shower curtain, a trash can, and a few other items that catch the eye whilst roaming the aisles. But of course, you don't always get everything you need. How handy a simple item can become when you don't have it. But I guess the good news is that I am finally moved in and had my first overnighter on Sunday. It's definitely a feeling of freedom, but also a bit sad about not getting to see my kid every day. For having spent so much of the last year with this great big tumorous drama being stuck in my head. Now that I am out of the marriage, divorced, moved into my own place, and have some semblance of a routine started, I find myself at a now what moment. Don't think that I am not glad to be done with all that, and at a point where I am able to move on. I just sort of feel like I need a long vacation, or time away from work to clear the smoke out of the room, you know. I've tried to maintain the other facets of my life outside of the marriage, and all seems to be going well. Certainly not complaining about that. I just can't seem to focus on a whole lot. And there's much about my life that I am realizing as a result of settling and attempting to evolve into that marriage, family, dad role over the years. When now that so much of that role is gone, a lot of what my life consists of, and decisions made towards, seems to have been attached to that role. And I am unsure if they are the best things for me at this point, if they are worthy of continued involvement. I feel like a VCR repairman, not a whole lot of use for these talents. I came home from work yesterday, with things that needed doing around the house. But instead, just sat on my butt and didn't do anything. Kind of like all the drive has been drained out of me, like the motivation is gone. I hope it is just a short phase. I find myself resistant to other people's requests of me, like, after so much time being married and sacrificing and supporting it. That at this point, I kind of want to withdraw the extended arms of concern for others and look after myself for a while. Sorry world. This cat is out to lunch for a while. I want to feel like I am doing something worthwhile, and the family was the reason I dealt with things like a job that doesn't pay very well. And issues like that. But now, since there is not a very good reason to sacrifice or deal with certain issues, the pursuance of those issues have certainly lost their luster. I'm just bored of it all, sick of working to barely pay bills, sick of scraping to get by. Sick of subjecting myself to crap that at one time had a higher cause to it than it does now at this point in my life. Forgive me for sounding ungrateful or petty, I am not quite sure how to describe how I am feeling. And the term blah doesn't really elaborate. Just feel like I am going through the motions, and not really loving life or living it. Minutes turn into hours, turn into days, and then another week has gone by. A month. A year. I should be glad to be able to wake up and draw breath. And of course I am, but I guess I am realizing how boring my personal life is when not attached and active in a marriage. I feel like I am wasting my days. And I don't like that feeling. I need to find new goals and a new direction. I need to feel like efforts placed into something are not going to be wasted. Again, here's this great big second chance at life to do something wonderful. But where's that starting space again? I guess for now, I will just bide my time and continue doing what I am doing. It would be nice to take a long break from work and recoup. Back to work today after a long holiday. So many around me having spent copious amounts of time with family and friends. I get the usual post-holiday "how was your holidays" question and offer the superficial fakeness that is my current mantra. No need to delve into the lackluster attempt a man makes at creating a holiday atmosphere with one child, a girl, and trying to make it appear special. Thank God for Xbox. Everything between my daughter and I was really good, not as good as a complete family would have been, but it was a lot better than expected. I worried mostly about my own state of mind as hers seemed disinterested in anything wrong or out of place. Her mother, my ex, has already made mention of her new man to my daughter. All of 4 months after our divorce from a 16-year relationship. I guess the new man is pretentiously a serious relationship. Enough to tell our 10-year-old who he is. I thought as parents you're supposed to wait until a relationship really does get serious before you involve the kids. Woman just doesn't get it. Her zealousness to force the new relationship into something serious in her mind, and to convince herself in her own mind how right her decision was to toss her family aside, has her current life appearing just dandy. Plus, her company just stopped one of its retirement programs, and all employees got a windfall check. So she's not hurting for money either. How is it and when is it that karma is supposed to kick in again? Gee, the universe has me crapping bricks and her currently living the high life. I think I wouldn't have had such a rough time if when walking out into the driveway of my new house, that I had such a hell of a time getting into. I did not see her car parked less than a block away at her new man's house, peering out of the window in my house over there. Seeing her car there, and the lights go out in the upstairs window for a long night. I walked a little way down the street hoping it was not her license plate, but it was. Kind of hard to get on with my own thing, knowing my child's mom is parked right down the street getting it on with the ever so serious new relationship. Our daughter's birthday is around the New Year's, so according to my daughter's wishes, she, my ex, and I met for lunch on the kiddo's birthday. It wasn't a bad lunch, no discussion of relationship issues, all very superficial. Which was good, but then coming home, and about an hour later seeing her car down there. I just can't take it. There's injury, which comes and goes, and one is given time to heal. Then there's situations like this, that seem all too common for me in my life. That not only is there injury, there's a continuing salting of the wound that I pray for protection from, but then somehow, I can't seem to get away from. It hurts so much, I feel trapped because I cannot rid myself of the events that continue to pile on the crap. Trying to have and make a good life with my daughter when she is with me but being beaten from within. Don't look down the street, I tell myself. But she's there. Back at work today, after a long break which was nice. Except for seeing the ex all the time, I'm so disturbed by the past week's events. And I can't seem to find any relief from it. I just want to get away from her completely. This has removed the last thread of concern or care for that woman that I could remotely muster from the goodness of my own being, to be cast aside like yesterday's news. Only to be traded for utter greaseball trash, then, to have to witness it. This is too much for me to take. Saw a girl on FB the other day, that has recently remarried. Her and her prior husband had 2 kids. This girl posts pictures of her kids laughing and smiling on her new husband's lap, with a caption that reads, "The kids love their new stepdad." I'm sorry, but that would finish me. I think I would just take a walk into a freeway. And knowing that it's a full-on possibility, I'm just not ready for any of this. Why does this continue to dig deeper at me? Why does her life seem so much better now? It appears to reflect upon me, despite my knowing better than to let it. It appears that leaving me was the best thing for her. I can't take another day like this. Nice guys do finish last. I honestly feel like there's no place for me. I think life is teaching me a lesson in how to be a jerk, and in order to protect myself. I am beginning to think that's all that's left for me. I think the last several months have been survival mode, you know. Not a whole lot of contemplation, just trying to pass by and put out the fires as you go. With so much having happened in such a short amount of time, and of course, not having much of a say in it all. That so directly affects my life to the core. It can be quite an unsettling moment when you have a second to stop and observe all that's happened and resulted in this where I am right now. I woke up Saturday morning and wasn't in a bad mood or anything, but just sort of looked around my bedroom, my house, to which I guess I haven't quite gotten used to yet, and thought to myself, damn, here I am. How did I get here? Something as disruptive in every area as a divorce kind of puts you in blind active mode. Got to get away. Got to get a house. Got to get food, get moved in. Get prepared for when the kid is with me. It feels like a hurricane hit and I had to evacuate with what I could lay my hands on the way out without any time to think. Just go. So now, the storm has passed, the dust has settled, and it's a moment of clarity that you look back on the past few months remembering so little in the heat of it all. Suddenly you are all moved into a new house. Into a new life. And not only do I feel unprepared and without any goals at all, it's also like I am picking through the ruins trying to find pieces of myself. Whomever I was a long time ago before I devoted myself to changing into husband, father, employee, Mr. Ord Cleaver. It is kind of exciting, still finding myself having to force myself to not think about the ex or what she's doing or worry about things that as a husband was my place to worry about. That's all I had for the past several years. That persona, that life's duty. Now, I still have the father parenting part of it. And sometimes it clouds the line between total separation from the ex and being able to not concern myself with the old worries and duties. Man, if you had asked me where I thought I would be 2 years ago, I would have never ever guessed I'd be divorced and into a different house and be at whatever one would call that part of a person's life again. And that's kind of what I am talking about here, when the dust settles and you really get that moment to exhale and just take it all in. That you are here moment. Where the day is not lost to the blur of attempting to put out a fire in your life. So, Saturday morning I had that moment, that here I am moment. Now what, was what I thought next, and now what consisted of casually walking downstairs, making some coffee, eggs, bacon, hash browns, turning on the TV and watching some cartoons with the kiddo. You know what noticed was missing. A sense of urgency to be doing something that someone else wanted me to do or wanted to do themselves with me in tow. Not having to wake up to a daily to-do list. Not having the whole day planned in advance because of someone else's goals and considerations of what is most important. The last contact, she said, sorry for the way things turned out, as if by an act of God, a lightning bolt came down and zapped her into this cheating state of consciousness. Lying, hiding secrets, playing along with the marriage, while see someone else on the side. Jesus, look at that, look how it all turned out. The absolute separation between herself and her actions for all intents and purposes to remain free from any accountability. I don't care what kind of a hole I might have been in her eyes, nothing warrants nor justifies cheating. She could have just been done with me and we divorce. That would have been a way things turn out, as opposed to directly destroying the marriage and family by her chosen actions. Man, that's going to be something I have to take a look at in the future. When dating, if I screw something up, I am first to admit it, and will exhaust all resources to right the wrong. If I start dating someone and hear her avoid culpability or influence on problems or issues, it's going to be a huge red flag for me. There is so much more to an apology than the words themselves. Of course, I am not sitting there trying to get her to think anyway or admit to anything. We are divorced and it's all done and I am just trying to put things past me. But every time any discussion or email comes along relating to the child and her life, I have to suddenly play along like this divorce was some impending event of life that neither of us had any control over. I don't like having to discuss things and take that frame of mind when what she did has left us in this situation and affecting all these areas we have to discuss. Sit right down in front of my child and lie to her, saying we both wanted this divorce. Of course, you can't explain the truth to your child, lest you be blamed for parental alienation, but don't they sort of alienate themselves? I don't want to live and discuss and absorb any blame on this. I wasn't even given the opportunity to change anything that might have been problems for my wife at the time. She never said that I did anything or acted anyway. She just got busted for cheating and hit that divorce button. She filed. She hired the lawyer. She snuck around for a year with another man before finally being found out. Truly someone who thinks they can do no wrong and haven't the slightest inclination towards shame for themselves. It blows my mind. These days I have my highs and lows, some periods of time I find myself not even thinking about her. Or this whole situation that came like a tornado in the night and took everything away. Yes, she treated me like crap, treated our family like it was disposable. Kept divorce as the final ace up her sleeve when arguments reached a peak. How could I have given so much for so little? I think about the guy she's with now and see no evidence of character or being a good man. What good man will talk to a married woman with those intentions? This is my pain. I am alone, and I am humiliated. I watched all of my efforts in areas even outside of the marriage amount to nothing, much less be an obvious waste of my life's time. I feel like that time is running out, that the best parts of me were wasted on a piece of crap person. And I am scrabbling about the wreckage trying to find that person that was me, comfortable with myself and bright-eyed towards the future. But I know an empty house awaits me. I drive by my old subdivision on the route home and see my replacement's truck in the driveway of the house I've lived in for the last 12 to 14 years. Those years upon years of memories being crafted out of real life. How easily it was scraped off the walls like old paint and covered over with ugly flower wallpaper. Sometimes I don't notice it getting dark outside, and only reach to turn on a lamp when I can no longer see. I wanted to write about how when I check my emails and see that I get one from the ex, how my stomach drops into my legs and I open it like it's a ticking bomb. 99% of the time it's news that in some way means that the ex has mismanaged her finances or some other important detail, and instead of she is cutting back on her own expenses and bull crap, she picks things around her to put on the chopping block. This time, it's my daughter's summer daycare. Despite a 5-digit windfall last year from her work, they discontinued one of a few retirement programs, of which money from each of her paychecks goes into each of these programs. I know she spent a lot of that cash on remodeling the old marital home and getting new washer, dryers, front loading, with optional drawer shelving underneath. She paid off her car, paid off a few credit cards, and who knows what else. Well, evidently as so very many times in the past she's overspent, and life surprises hit. And what's the first thing she deems an unnecessary expense? Daycare for our daughter. Granted, it would be the last year that our kid can go to daycare because she's 10, and they stop allowing them in daycare when they reach 5th grade, but still. How about you cut out that platinum cable package? I have rabbit ears over the air TV, and so far, it's been okay. I don't have internet access at my house. I don't have gym memberships or tanning salon memberships, nor do I visit the nail salon for a $100 nail job. So, when the crap hits the fan, it's nice to know not a word I ever said made it through her thick skull. And she's ready to axe every part of everyone else's life to make up the difference. Her new boyfriend doesn't pay anything towards the house over there, or food, or utilities, or for his dog living there. Gee, my ex-wife, such a generous soul, towards something she wants. I think my kid will be okay. I sure as hell don't like it, and don't know what I can do about it. As I walked away with 5 digits in credit card debt amassed through the marriage years. So, I get the emails, explaining the problems I knew would still prevail with her life. And her answer is to look everywhere but her own closet for junk to throw out and stop wasting money on. Truly, a sign of narcissism. Immaturity. Good parenting. I remember first talking about the divorce, how she had already spoken to her divorced girlfriend whose husband was going into the big house because of failing to pay his taxes. And for fraud. So, my ex-wife asks this friend all about the divorce process and comes to me and says, I just want whatever the norm is. Whatever the state says you're supposed to pay. Ah, entitlement, so blinding, so misleading, and I have had a few thousand to hire my own lawyer. It would not have been so cut and dry, where I leave the whole infidelity on her part out of the equation. I guess she just assumed that going by what her friend got out of the divorce, that she would get the same. Meanwhile, I was studying the Texas family law codes and finding out exactly what my rights and obligations were. How ridiculous it is to then discuss matters with someone already decided that she was going to be primary custodian and would be receiving support payments. I guess because she was a she. I wish she would leave me alone. I hate seeing emails from her because it's just more of the same old crap, more of her causing problems in her own life. And then somehow twisting it into a problem with our kid that she just has to talk to me about. Are you guys doing anything tonight? Because I wanted to come by and talk to you about the daycare. By the way, I told her we had already discussed the daycare issue on last week's email, and that it was already settled. I don't want her over at my house. I am not her pawn or her helper or her friend. I am not her fallback guy, her confidant, or her last resort. If she were smart, she'd find a way to leave me alone. I don't know what her problem is, but I will tell you this. If anything about this divorce gives me hope, it's that I don't have my life's partner. My soulmate working against the very security of our future financially, as well as that little old bout with infidelity. I probably negate any premise of my own maturity by calling her names here. For that I would offer an apology to viewers here. Distance, really that's all I need. That's all I needed to begin with. Having to drop the kid off at her doorstep every week and seeing her seems to invite with it some level of involvement that I'd rather just not have, now that the daycare is over. I will be dropping her off more frequently, and I'd rather not have to see the ex so much. From what I gather from the ex as of late, she's feigning some sort of I am already all past this attitude, having never shown any remorse. Having never offered an apology, to which I probably should never expect, but to act as if nothing's happened, and that all is well right now, is just the mindset of a shallow soul. I can be at a point that I am all past this too, and I hate that any amount of it could ever be construed as a missing of her or some residual love for her. Because I assure you, that love that once existed was completely extinguished. And I have nothing. I feel nothing for that woman anymore. To do someone wrong in this manner, and then have no maturity or level of humanity to realize and at least admit a wrong, rather than sit there and hold their breath while turning purple, is beyond me. How someone can be so empty. I hope she wises up sometime, at least for the sake of her own financial future. I could care less about her otherwise. That's just where I am anymore towards her. Greedy lunatic, BPD, narcissism, all seemingly appropriate descriptions of what I've seen over the years. I would have never thought it would come to this. In closing, I feel like I am still attached to the ex. And I know that I am in regard to the child we have together. And it's impossible to remain completely no contact because of the kid's needs. But so far everything from that side of the fence has been these issues that somehow make my life difficult in terms of finance, which is severely messed right now, or affects the logistics and time with my kid. If the tables were reversed, and I were in my ex's shoes in the old house, I wonder if she'd be willing to come by every day, twice a day. What, me with my moved-in lover and all? I think it's my turn to be a bit centered on myself in terms of my goals and actions. I've spent plenty of time for long enough struggling under someone else's stupidity. And that being gone now is a freedom I am not willing to give up. I can't block her calls or emails, because most issues she communicates with me about directly involve the kid. But I can almost swear that every time it's some problem caused by the ex, that affects some aspect of the kid's life, that just happens to greatly negatively affect my own life. I despise the link there, where my ex can still cause problems in my life. It's like I haven't completely gotten away from her toxicity and trouble. But I will go through whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes for the sake of my kid. I just had to vent this. My comment. Maybe this OP is a little bit too wordy, a little bit too whiny, but it shows you that sometimes that no one really wins from a divorce. Did you win in your divorce? Comment down below. Sub and bell, and I am preparing a more positive story for the next one.